What's up, Nerdyverse? I'm Daddy Louie, and in this video we are taking a look at a game called Thalara, The Last Artifacts. So stick around. Before we get started, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe for more content and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Thalara is a card game that has some mechanics in it that I have never seen in a game before. It makes it quite unique. It will be coming to Kickstarter in just a couple of days. August 17th is when they plan to launch. The game is for ages 10 and up. It is a 2 to 4 player game, and it takes around 30 minutes to play, depending on how many players you actually have. The game, like I said, sports many mechanics that I've never seen before that are actually quite unique. Your hand is actually selected from your entire deck, so you don't shuffle any cards. You pick up your whole deck. You select what you want your hand to be, and that is your hand. And whatever cards you use from your hand are discarded, and then you can fill your hand back up in the next round. Another unique mechanic that it has is that as you obtain victory points via collecting artifacts, which we'll talk about in a minute, those artifact lock slots in your hand. So they become permanent cards in your hand, and then when you draw new cards into your hand, you only get to draw so many based on how many artifacts you have, because like I said, it kind of like locks your slots in. The world is unique that they've created specifically for the game. Thalara is the world, and magic is being sucked from it by evil. Evil has taken the magic in the world and placed it inside these artifacts, and it is your job to go out and try and save these artifacts before you lose all of the magic that you have left in you. But is it good? Well, if you join us on the table, we will check it out. Okay, now before I deep dive too much into the game, I do want to note that this is a prototype copy. So some of the art that you see here may not be final. Some of it might be. We just don't know yet. Also, these are not necessarily the final heroes or characters that you will see in the Kickstarter. They haven't quite figured out which heroes are going to go with which packs. The game has individual packs. There's two. There'll be two different ones as kind of like starters, but they'll be different. And one pack is for 2 players. If you want to play 3 to 4 players, you'll need both packs. So what you see here is typically what you would see in 2 packs. So you have 6 heroes. Or 6 characters, so I assume it will be 3 and 3 sold in the packs. And then you have 2 sets of remnants. Now, the remnants decks are exactly the same. The only difference is the colored back. It's hard to see on camera, but this is like a green. This is like a reddish purple. This is like a blue, and this is like a tan and a gray. They look kind of the same on the screen, but they are slightly different. Not huge differences, but different enough in that you won't get your cards mixed up. And like I said, they're exactly the same. So you'll get the same remnants of magic and this represents what magic you have left in you, which again we'll talk about as we get deeper into it. Then you have your characters. These 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4. They are kind of like your starter characters. That doesn't mean that they're not balanced and competitive against everything else. It just means that they're a little easier to use than the more complex characters. These 2 are more complex in that, like this character here, Melina, she has her normal 4 spells, just like all the other characters. But then she also has a separate rule set because one of her spells allows her to lay traps. And then you have your separate traps that will be different. So again, she still has 4 spells. She just has extra traps that are used with one of the spells that she comes with. And then Inez over here, or Inez, she's also a little bit more complex, I guess you could say, in that she has like an energy crystal, and she uses the energy, the spells that she has to store remnants on her crystal, and then that makes her spells stronger, basically. So again, it's not that these are less competitive than these guys. These guys are just, they're built to introduce you to the game while still being competitive. They're just a little simpler to play as than these characters over here. And then finally, you have your artifacts. So each pack that you receive, like I said, you're going to get 2 to 3 heroes or characters. You're going to get 2 remnants decks, and then you're going to get an artifact deck. Again, these artifact decks are exactly the same. These are the artifacts that you will use to that you'll try to capture throughout the game, and this deck will be shuffled. This is the only thing that actually ends up getting shuffled for the game. And each one is identical. So you buy one pack, that's for 2 players, you'll use one deck. If you have 3 to 4 players, you will shuffle the 2 decks together to make one master artifact deck. So that's what you're going to get. There are more characters planned as stretch goals, add-ons, and stuff like that, and then more characters in addition into the future. These are just the ones that I received in the prototype. So let me set up for a quick game, and I'll show you how it plays. Okay, so at the beginning of the game, you're going to select which character you want to play as. For the purposes of this review, I'm going to be looking at Mira, the Fire Amazon. You can see her spell overview here. So she has 4 spells, just like all the other characters. And these will become more clear as to what they do once I've shown you how to play. But the spell overview card will actually be given to your opponent so that he or she can keep track of which spells you have and what they can do, so you're not having to look across the table, which I think is really neat. I also want to note that all of the character cards are double-sided. They are in English on one side and German on the other side. This game was made in Germany, so that is the purpose for the dual language. Same with the spell cards as well. All the other cards in the game don't have text, so they have no reason to be double-sided. So this is a nice little feature that I really appreciate. The art as well, you can see, is just really, really cool. You kind of get like full card art on the spells, and then that art is also on the back of the spell overview. So you select your character, lay out your spells in front of you to use, and then give your spell overview card to your opponent. Then you are going to take the artifact deck that you have. In this case, it's a 2-player game. So you'd shuffle up those 15 artifacts and then flip over 3 of them, and that will be used in the first round. Each round, you will refill this back up to 3, regardless of how many were taken. So if 2 are captured in the first round, you would leave this one and replace the other 2. If all 3 are captured, you would replace all 3, etc. And then you would decide who is going to go first randomly, however you choose to do that. And then play begins by each player going through their entire deck of remnants. Like I said, there's no luck in this game, so there's no luck of the draw, what you're going to get in your hand. You're going to look at what's available to capture, and then you're going to look into your deck and decide on 7 cards that will be your starting hand. Now that you have selected your hand, I want to show you kind of what these cards represent. So you'll notice that they are all kind of different schools of magic, and they coordinate in color and in icon with the artifacts and with the spell costs on the spell cards themselves. So when looking at these cards, there's 2 things to note. One, the value number that's in the corner of the card. That is going to be the power that you are basically bidding towards the artifact that you're trying to collect. Also, the only time that the the type of energy that you're using, the only time that it matters is when casting a spell. So what that means is I could take this this kind of wooded nature energy here, and I could put it here towards this light artifact, and this 3 still counts towards capturing this artifact. Again, the icon or the type of energy that you're using only matters when trying to activate one of your spells. So for example, if I wanted to activate this death blow here on this artifact, which says destroy any 1 energy card in this conflict, I would need to have all 3 of these suits of energy on this conflict. And each one of these is called a conflict. So you and your opponent are going to take turns placing a card from your hand onto one of the 3 conflicts. And you're basically bidding for that victory point, if you will. So let's say, opening turn, I'm going to go. I really want this this 2 over here, so I'm going to bid high. I'm going to bid 3 on it. So now my opponent would play a card on his side. He doesn't really care about this right now, so he's going to come over here, and he's going to place a 2 there. And then it would go back to my turn, and I would play, let's say I'll play another 1 on this. So now I'm up to 4. So now my opponent has to decide if he's going to start going for this same 1, or if he's going to maybe try and come over here. Let's say he places a 1 there. And it goes back and forth like this, bidding for this, bidding for these artifacts. Now, the artifacts have 2 purposes. So when you actually capture an artifact, which will happen at the end of the round, once everyone has either run out of cards to play, or someone passes and then the other player keeps going until they pass. So you basically keep going till you run out of cards, or until both players pass. So these cards are have 2 purposes. The first is victory points at the end of the game. So you'll see a little star icon in the bottom of the card here. 2, 1, 2. That's how many victory points the artifact is worth at the end of the game, and the player with the most victory points wins. But also, these cards are going to replace remnants in your hand. So at the end of the round, once all of these conflicts have resolved, you're going to look and see how many cards you have left in your hand. Let's say I used 5 remnants and I only have 2 left. But I won this artifact. So this guy is going to go into my hand permanently. And now when I have to draw back up to 7, I can only draw, let's say I spent all of them, I would only be able to draw 6 cards. So it's locked that slot in my hand. I can use this, however, on my next turn in the next round as 2 energy towards bidding for another conflict. But again, at the end of the round, it's going to go back to my hand. It's not going to be discarded like remnants are, like normal remnants. So, like I said, it's the artifacts serve 2 purposes. It fills up your hand with, potentially useful cards. You'll notice some of them are worth 0. So it's worth 3 victory points, but it gives you 0 towards bidding. So that's going to permanently hinder your hand in future rounds, especially if you grab this card early on. Again, it's going to be helpful for, endgame victory point count, but throughout the other rounds, you're not going to get anything for it when bidding for other artifacts in the conflict. So now let's quickly take a look at how spells work. So spells will activate once you have played a card. Once you have played cards on a conflict that match your skill here. So let's look at sparking because it's pretty easy. So sparking only costs 1 of these. I believe it's fire energy because there's like flames and stuff on the picture. I don't know why there's an hourglass there, but so this card says destroy any energy card with strength 1 or less in this conflict. So let's say, for example, we have this conflict going on here, and he's up 3-2. Okay, let's say I've got 2, he's got 3, bidding for this guy here, and I play a fire energy there for 1. So now we're tied 3-3. As soon as I play this 1, I can activate this ability. I play it on this conflict, and then it destroys a energy card with strength 1 or less. So I can destroy this energy. So now I'm winning 3-2. I can't use this spell again the rest of the game. They're kind of one-time use, but then I would win this conflict and I would get that artifact. So if all that makes sense, those are the basic mechanics of the game. You're going to go back and forth, round after round, bidding. I say bidding, but you're playing energy in the conflicts in order to win the artifacts. And the artifacts then become dual purpose in your hand. So there's 0 luck. You are deciding your own fate throughout the entire game, which is really at the core of what the developers are trying to achieve here with this game. A 2-player game versus a 3 to 4 player game plays exactly the same. No mechanics in the game change. The only thing that changes is you would add another deck of artifacts. Other than that, the game plays exactly the same. However, everything changes just by adding more players, right? So a 2-player game is very intense. It's very tactical, whereas a 3 to 4 player game becomes more unpredictable. So hardcore gamers that really want to get to the depth of the strategy, they're really going to love that 2-player game. And players who really want more randomness, more I don't want to say fun, but more chaos and more unpredictability, you're going to enjoy the 3 to 4 player version just a little bit more. But once you understand the rules, which I just explained, and it's quite simple, all of the strategy comes from the different characters having different abilities and who you're playing against, and the randomness of shuffling and drawing up the artifacts. Because early on, you don't want to see a lot of 0s worth 3 because you're going to get high victory points early in the game, right? But you're clogging up your hand with cards that are useless to you. All right, let's talk real quickly about one more thing. Two more things. First, how do you trigger Endgame? So Endgame is triggered by when you have not enough cards in your supply, which is your deck, to draw the amount of cards that you need for a 7-card hand, or if one player has their entire hand is all artifacts. So basically, once one player has won or received 7 artifacts, that will trigger the end game, and you'd count up victory points. Or when one player can no longer draw up to a hand of 7 because they've used up too many of their remnants. That's what triggers endgame to go into counting your victory points. The last thing that I want to talk about is there is a variation in the rule book that I received that is called Magical Chaos. And in this variation, you would play as 2 characters or potentially 3 characters. Basically, if you and your opponent both have the same set of the game, instead of, you're sharing one, if you both have it, you can select spells from multiple characters. So maybe I want these 2 spells from this character, this spell from this character, and then I want this spell from this character. So this changes up a lot of how the game is played, I guess. There are a few extra little rules to it other than that, but that's kind of the basic principle, and I'll leave that for you to discover on your own. And that's everything you need to know to play Thalara, the Last Artifact. I think this game boasts a lot of really unique mechanics that I've not seen in many, if any, other games. I did get a chance to speak to the designer, creator of the game. He's very excited that there is, potential for a lot of new characters, especially if the Kickstarter is successful. He's talked about more characters being added to stretch goals and add-ons, and that really is what kind of changes each game. The characters are very unique. I do love the collecting artifacts, locking in slots of your hand. That is also a very unique mechanic. And there's no luck. I mean, I personally never played a game where you pick up your entire deck and select your hand, the cards that you want from round to round based on what you need from the artifacts that are placed down. So that's really, really cool. Also, I want to note that you can get a free copy of this game, print and play, right on their website. You just sign up for their free print and play, and you can test the game out. You can try it out without spending a dime, which is really neat and very appreciated in the community. And like I said, the mechanics are super easy to learn. It took me like 5 seconds to learn the game, but every ounce of strategy, every ounce of competitiveness for this game comes from the different characters, comes from the very unique play style, and I really think that that's what the designers and stuff are going for. I enjoyed it, and I think you guys will enjoy it too. I'll leave links to everything in the description below. Check out the Kickstarter on August 17th. What do you guys think of Thalara, the Last Artifact? Let me know down in the comment section below. I enjoy reading all of those and interacting with you guys. Also, if you want to see more of the Circle of Nerds, check out our social media. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, all at Circle of Nerds. Also, don't forget that we have a podcast that comes out every Wednesday called The Cosmic Disaster Show. You can find that right here on YouTube or anywhere that you enjoy listening to podcasts. And for an extra bit of love and affection to us here at the Circle of Nerds, please consider checking us out over on Patreon at patreon.com/Circle of Nerds. Anyway, guys, that's all from me. I'll see you in the next video.